Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Emezi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode. What is pornography addiction? That's what we're going to be talking about today, and it is a question that not enough people are asking. Many of you who are listening to this podcast, you believe you're struggling with pornography. Now, you may not call it an addiction, you may not call it a compulsion, you might call it a dependence, you might call it a habit, you might not even want to add another word to the other side of pornography like addict or habit or anything like that because it clashes with your self-image. And I understand. I don't have an issue with that. But I do want you to know that if you do not define what pornography issue you are having, if you don't define what it is, it becomes very challenging to choose the right type of help. And many of you don't know whether you should do this on your own, work with a coach, take a course, use free resources, work with a therapist, work with a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist, or just check your ass into rehab. You have no idea. But understanding what the problem is going to change all of that. Because for some of you, you only recognize or acknowledge this problem, whether it's addiction, compulsion, habit, whatever you want to call it, when something goes wrong, when your dick can't get hard for your wife or your girlfriend, your partner, whoever it is. And you're like, oh man, I think it's that PIED thing. I think it's that porn-induced erectile dysfunction thing. Or when you feel a lot of shame because you thought you were going to just watch some straight pornography, but it ended up needing to be a woman with a dick. It needed to be an animal, furry, like creature anime. Oh, I don't even know what the hell you guys are watching anymore. It needed to be like a black guy having a sex with a white woman while you were imagining yourself to be a cuckold, whatever. I'm really digging deep into the recesses of my porn vaults that is very blurry and trying to pull stuff out and mix it up with stuff that clients have told me. So whatever the hell it is you guys are watching, sometimes the shame that comes from that, the questioning of your sexuality or your morality or your values or whatever it is, or the combination of that and your limp dick and the fact that you're sleep deprived because you stayed up late viewing pornography and the fact that you feel completely foggy mentally and you can't focus, sometimes those are the things that make you realize, man, I have a problem with pornography. This is a problem. But what exactly is that problem? So here is the official elevated recovery, or rather you can call it the Porn Reboot definition of pornography addiction. I took the time to put this together. I'm very intentional about it, and you can write it down somewhere if that works for you. My definition of pornography addiction is a pattern of behavior that generates subjective distress and negatively impacts or leads to the loss of important professional and personal opportunities, in spite of repeated attempts to stop. Some of you may notice some phrases from my definition of compulsion and relapse. I was very intentional about it, and I'll tell you why. Let's break it down one more time. A pattern of behavior, and we all know it is a pattern, which means that we can trace it back to specific triggers, to specific times, to specific states of your nervous system. So it's a pattern of behavior. And that's a beautiful thing about it. If there's a pattern, then a skilled person or a skilled professional can help you identify that pattern and interrupt that pattern. That generates subjective distress. Subjective means that this is probably one of the most important terms in there. It means according to you. Not according to everybody, not according to the literature, not according to JK or your therapist or your priest or the Bible, none of that. This is you, your dick, your eyes watching that digital, those pixels of those people having sex with each other. Subjective distress and negatively impacts or leads to the loss of important professional and personal opportunities. Personal opportunities could include your relationship opportunities, your opportunity for more intimacy with your wife, your opportunity for more connection with your children. Professionally, it could involve your inability to handle stress. One of the things I see a lot with high performers is when they are in a binge or when they slip and there is a crisis happening in their business, they cannot handle it. They fall apart, which leads to deeper mental health issues. If they are struggling with something like ADHD or they have some sort of low level depression, that shit gets out of hand. Listen, if you're a high performer, if you're working in a high powered career, you're like an investment banker who is like going for the top, you're going for those big numbers. If you're an entrepreneur of any sort, if you are a consultant, whatever your job, I don't care. You could be working in a factory, you could be doing some sort of blue collar work, but you are one of the best in your field. Understand that your slips and your relapses in times of crisis will destroy you. You have to be very careful. So, loss of important professional and personal opportunities despite repeated attempts to stop. I emphasize the personal. Unless that happens, most men will never agree that they have an out of control behavior. And the professional, because oftentimes, if it is not impacting as a man, your professional life or your personal life in some way, I do not believe that it will ever get to the point where you and I will be having a conversation about this. In fact, you're only listening to this podcast to this point because pornography has impacted your professional or some sort of personal opportunity in your life. So basically, any sort of repeating behaviors which are causing you despair and distress. So if this is impacting your life and you're just like, I don't know, I don't give a shit about it, there's no despair and there is no distress, it is one of two things. You're watching a ton of pornography and it's either not causing you distress or despair, or you are actually experiencing distress or despair, but you have not yet linked it back to pornography. And you're on medication, you're going to therapy, you're dealing with all of these things, but you haven't sat down to tell your therapist, like, yeah, last night I was binging on pornography and edging for 4 hours. So here's the thing. If pornography does not interfere with your life goals, if it does not create financial issues, if it does not upset your relationship, if it does not clash with your morals or values, if it does not impact your emotions, if it does not impact your mental or physical health negatively, do you have a problem? I don't think you do. I don't think you have that problem, even if you're watching pornography. Like one of my mentors used to say, JK, it's only a problem if it's a problem. So it's a problem if it's an actual problem, not because someone else says it's a problem. Not because you listen to like 20 episodes of my podcast and you were like, God damn, all those symptoms are definitely mine. I have this problem. No, you are the best expert at yourself. Before you listen to this podcast, did you actually believe that pornography was an issue in your life? Have you yourself actually made the connections, or did you just listen to the podcast? After the podcast, during your next slip or relapse, did you check in with yourself to see like, oh yeah, these things are connected to pornography? Or did you just go like, yeah, pornography is the scapegoat for all my problems, and if I fix my behavior with pornography, everything else is going to be fixed in my life? That was the case for me. That is the case for thousands of our clients. But there are still men who apply to work with us every single day that do not make it through the first screening call because pornography is not their problem, even though they think it is. Like I always say, it's a symptom of an issue, but pornography for them is not the symptom. They just think it's the symptom because of some moral issue they have or something else. So what of your sexual behavior in general, including pornography, but just your general sexual behavior? When is that problematic, JK? Well, the answer is your behavior is deemed to be problematic when it is unacceptable to whoever that person concerned is. So if your behavior is unacceptable to you to a certain extent and it is causing you despair, it is causing you distress, then it is problematic. That does not mean that it is necessarily an addiction. So it's fine to go in for a screening call. It's fine to seek help. But again, if it is unacceptable to you, you get on a call. I'll give you a scenario. Somebody shows up and says like they have a problem with pornography. We ask you a bunch of screening questions. We audition you. And you say, I'll be honest with you, I have morning wood every morning. I have no problems having sex with my wife. I love her very much. I still want to be with her. I just don't like the fact that multiple times a week, I just seem to use pornography after a long day of work as a reward. And that is the only thing. We ask a few more questions, and that's the only thing. You're like, I just don't want to do it. I don't feel good about it. It's not because, like, yeah, I know I'm a Christian. I don't feel good doing it, but that's not the main reason. The main reason is that I feel that that part of my life is out of control. Is it affecting your finances? No, I don't think it's affecting my finances. I do very well professionally. In fact, I watch pornography to reward myself for all the cool stuff I'm doing. My life is awesome. The fact is, I can't stop watching pornography to reward myself for my awesome life. And I would really like to stop doing that because I just don't feel it's right. I feel like I have access to my partner and I just don't feel right watching other people having sex. So, no noticeable impact on your brain at this point, but you just don't feel right engaging in it. That is called a problematic behavior. So if you deem it to be problematic, we will work with you in that setting. However, if somebody says something on the other hand and just like, it's not impacting me in any way, I just feel like as a Christian, I shouldn't be watching it. Well, sir, is there any time that it's compulsive or habitual? Not really. I watch it like every couple of weeks and I just feel really bad on the inside. I feel really bad on the inside because it's just not something I should be doing as a Christian. Okay, well, how long can you go without pornography? Oh, like last year. I mean, I haven't watched pornography most of last year. I think I just watched a little bit in December around the holidays and then it picked up and like every 2 months or so. But I saw your ad online or I saw your podcast. I listened to it and I was like, yeah, I want to check this out and I want to stop it because it's just not in tune with my religious values. We're probably not going to work with you. There's no pain, and we're always checking for that pain. We don't believe that it is problematic enough in this situation. So that's the nuance. And for those of you who wonder, that's the reason why we have Reboot strategists speaking to you guys. People are like, oh, your Reboot strategists are just salesmen and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, there's a time to sell. And when I say there's a time to sell, there's time to sell if somebody's just like, yeah, I dress up as a woman and go to a different state and have random men come and have unprotected sex with me because I started off with regular pornography and I escalated to that. By the way, this is very common these days. Yeah, and it took me like 4 years to find somebody who would help me. And I heard JK on the podcast and I was like, whoa, this guy's super blunt. Sounds like he's going to call me out. I want to work with him. And so I'm very scared, but I'm on this call and I want to do this. And we're like, cool. And then halfway through it, you're like, you know what? I'm just not comfortable with this anymore. I didn't know all these emotions were going to come up when I was talking about this. I want to run away. You best believe the Reboot strategist on the phone is going to sell the shit out of the reason why they should end their behavior. You best believe they're going to do that. Why? Because one thing we understand is that if somebody is in distress and comes to us to have a conversation about this, first of all, they need to be in a safe space. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but this is also important for you guys to understand. They need to be in a safe space. It took a lot. Sometimes they'll listen to like 400 episodes of the podcast before they show up in a 2-week period, a 3-week period. And they show up, they may never have another opportunity to do this. They did not know that all this shame was going to come up. They did not know all these strange emotions would come up when they are being accountable and disclosing for the first time to a freaking stranger on the internet. I wish I could talk to everybody who called, but we get up to 3,000 applications a month. I just can't. That's why we have a team. So we do have to sell. But on the other hand, the main role of the strategists is to sit with you and understand what is going on. Is this a problematic behavior? There's a lot of nuance and they are trained for that. So any of you who've been wondering like, well, what do I do? Do I get on a call? What is the purpose of the call? All our strategists are certified coaches who have overcome this behavior themselves. So you would always be in a safe space. So cool. That's actually it. I will say one thing. If you are uncertain about where you are with your behavior, visit elevatedrecovery.org and actually look for our quiz. I don't even know where it is. I think it's elevatedrecovery.org/quiz. And that is our porn addiction recovery quiz that I put together. It's got about, 25 to 30 questions, I believe. So if you answer all those questions at the end of it, it will let you know where you stand with your behavior and you can make a decision about where you want to go from there. I'll speak to you later on in the week. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out of control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.